Hi friends, welcome to Swada Info Solutions. I am Ajay Kumar Pandey and we are going to start our second video, Basics of a C Program. In this video, we will learn how a C program actually works. Okay, let's start the slide. What a program does. Program is a set of instructions written in any programming language to provide command to computer to perform some specific task. Remember, computer can understand only 0 and 1. No matter which language is chosen to write a program, it must be converted in 0 and 1 for execution. Assembler converts assembly language into their equivalent machine languages. Compiler or interpreter both are used to translate a high-level language into machine language. So a question arises in your mind: if compiler and interpreter does does the same thing, why? What is the need of two types of translators? Okay, this is a there is a technology independence, like JavaScript language is interpreted and a C language program is compiled, and there is a also a language Java which first compile then interpret. Okay, so in our next slide, compiler versus interpreter, both converts high level language into machine language. Compiler and interpreter is a system software which converts high level language into machine language, but in their working there are major differences, like compiler read whole source code at a time and return all the errors. It means suppose you have written a 10 lines of programs, and suppose there were a programming mistake in line 2, 4 and 6. So compiler read whole source code from 1 to 10, and after reading the whole source code it will throw the errors which was in line number 2, line number 4 and line number 6. But in the case of interpreter, as in definition, interpreter reads source code line by line and stop at the occurrence of first error and prompt programmer to debug. It means compiler reads source code line by line. It starts reading from, consider the same example. Suppose you have a program of the 10 lines. Okay. So it's start reading from line number 1. In our previous example, we have considered if we have errors in line number 2, 4 and 6, then compiler read whole source code and return all errors. But in the case of interpreter, it stopped at line number 2 because there were a bug, and it will prompt to user to debug. So what is debug? Debugging is the process of correcting error. Bug means error in a program, and debug is the process of removing or correcting the program to make it runnable on a computer. Okay. Compiler is used to compile a C program. As I have discussed, C program is compiled, not interpreted, and the most common compiler is Turbo compiler. It is available in both in DOS mode and Windows mode. Okay, but the most popular was Turbo compiler in DOS mode. Okay, compiler and interpreter and assembler are referred as translator because it translates machine language or assembly language into their compiler and interpreter and assembler is used to translate a program into machine language. Okay, move to next slide. In this slide, there is a simple C program, and we will discuss what is the importance, what is the how, what is the importance of every single instruction written here. So there is a symbol. This symbol is known as hash. Hash in hash, and there is a name include. And here we have written stdio dot h in angle brackets. Here every symbols has their own meanings. For example, hash indicates that this is a preprocessor directive. It means compiler ignores compiling these lines. Here studio.h is a header file which is already compiled, means pre-compiled. It is a pre-compiled file, so there is no need of any compilation for that section. So compiler ignore the compile whenever it sees it's found the pound symbol or hash symbol. Okay, move forward to the next section. Void main. Void is a return type. As soon as you move forward in your course, you will have the better understanding how what is the what is the return type or the function name. Here main is the function name. What is the function? Function is just lines of code written to achieve some specific task. But main is a system defined function, and it means this is the entry point for the program. Your compiler start reading your code for compilation from this line void main, and so this is entry point for the program. This is known as curly brace, opening curly brace and closing curly brace. This shows this this shows the opening block and closing block. This shows the closing curly brace indicates end of the code blocks, and respectively this shows the starting point, the start of the code block. And a statement for printing a simple message. The printf is also system defined function which takes a string as an argument and displays this message. And in the last there is a semicolon. Semicolon terminates every state. Semicolon is used to terminate a statement. Okay, so as I have told you, right now as a beginner you don't have any idea about what is void. As I have told you, void is a return type, main is a function name, and this parenthesis, the bracket, the small brackets here in C language referred as parenthesis, and there is a special meaning of parenthesis. And as you move forward in this course, you will have the better understanding what is the return type like void, what is the function name, and how does we pass the arguments. Here no arguments, it means it does not take any input. Okay, so you need not to worry about all these things. Okay, now we are going to understand how a C program is actually executed on our computer system. If you see in here hierarchy, there are 5 steps are involved to execute a C program, like pre-processing, compiling, linking, loading, and execution. If you see the first step here, this is the pre-processing, and in our previous slide we discussed here, we discussed hash. Hash indicates the preprocessor directive. Okay, it means the first step is the pre-processing, and in pre-processing read header files and hash include articles. Okay, the next second point is compiling. Compiling is the process of converting a high level language code into the equivalent machine language code. And what are the major process comes under this process? to check syntax error. Any types of syntax. Syntax are the grammatical rules for writing any program, and we will explain in brief in our next video. So right now, to check syntax error and converting high level programming language code into machine readable format, that is object code format. Okay, the converted code from high level language would be object code format. The third process is linking. What is linking? Linking is a process of combining all obj files. Actually, when we create a program, it generates several files. Okay, like when you create your C program, first you say, suppose you are going to save your file with the name A. So and the extension of the C language is .c. The first file is created by you is a.c, and in the meanwhile, when it after compilation, it create what it will create .obj file, and in linking process it will create an exe file that will execute your program. So linking is a process of combining all the obj files which is received which is generated after compiling our program of current program along with standard library files or objects files to create an executable files called exe. If you if you don't have the better understanding of these lines, I will recommend you don't go through the details, and I will explain as soon as we process in our next slides are relevant slide. I have mentioned here because this is a very typical process, and you will have the better understanding. So I have just mentioned, but you need not to worry about all these the technical terms. I will assure you, I will explain all these technicalities in great detail in our later videos. So just focus on, you may focus on these things like the pre-processing first, after pre-processing, compiling, linking, loading, then execution. And loading, what is loading? This is very important. If you ever go through the operating system concept, you will be aware that to execute a program on a computer system, it must be loaded in the main memory of the computer. Loading means loading is the process in which memory is allocated for our program variables. Okay, so loading is the process of carrying .exe file into the primary memory. The example of primary memory would be RAM, cache, registers, whatsoever. Loading under the control of OS. OS is a fully responsible for allocating memory allocation and deallocation. When our program is executed and output will be generated, this is the then our exe will be deallocated from our memory, and this is done by the module which is operating system is the module which is responsible for doing allocation and deallocation of the memory in our program execution. And fifth is the instruction of the object. The instruction of the object code are executed one by one. It has four major steps. There are the instruction fetch, operand fetch, instruction decode, instruction execution. I am not going in the technical details as we are in just our second video, and we will discuss each of them in a great detail in our next video. Okay, thank you for watching. Okay.